The alien queen searched for a worthy mate for her bloodline. Only one human stepped forward. The message arrived on every communication channel across the galaxy at the same moment. And every species stopped to listen. Queen Selara of the Zirathi Empire was searching for a mate. The announcement sent shockwaves through 200 star systems, and diplomats scrambled to understand what this meant for galactic politics. The Zirathi were ancient beyond measure, their empire older than most species could comprehend. They had conquered worlds when humans still lived in caves, and their technology made other civilizations look like children playing with stones. But the Queen's message was not about war or conquest. It was about survival. "My bloodline grows weak," her holographic image declared across 1,000,000 screens. 10,000 years of purity have brought us to the edge of extinction. I seek new strength from beyond our borders. I seek a worthy mate. The Galactic Council station orbiting Vareth Prime became the center of attention overnight. Representatives from 12 powerful species arrived within days, each bringing their finest candidates. Warriors, princes, nobles, and champions, all seeking the incredible honor of joining the eternal bloodline. Park Jinho watched the chaos from the maintenance corridor on level 47. He was 34 years old, born in Bizan on Earth, and he had worked as an environmental systems engineer on this station for 6 years. His job was simple: keep the air clean, the water flowing, and the temperature stable. He was good at his work, but nobody noticed good maintenance. They only noticed when something broke. Jinho pressed his face against the observation window and watched another diplomatic shuttle dock at the station. This one carried the Keth Ari delegation, and their champion was impossible to miss. Warlord Draxon stood 8 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms and skin like black iron. The crowd in the docking bay stepped back in fear as he walked past. "That is one ugly creature," Jinho muttered to himself. He did not belong here among these powerful beings. Humans had joined the galactic community only 40 years ago, and most species still considered Earth a primitive backwater. Humans were too soft, too weak, too short-lived. What could they possibly offer to an empire that had existed for millennia? Jinho returned to his work, crawling through narrow passages and checking atmospheric processors. The station was struggling to accommodate so many visitors, and the life support systems needed constant attention. He worked through the night cycle, fixing problems that nobody would ever thank him for. The next day brought the official gathering in the Grand Assembly Hall. Jinho was not invited, of course, but maintenance workers could go anywhere. He stood in a shadowy alcove near the ceiling, adjusting an air circulation unit while watching the ceremony below. Queen Selara entered, and the entire hall fell silent. She was terrifying and beautiful in equal measure. Her skin was pale silver, almost luminescent, and her eyes burned with inner fire. She stood 7 feet tall, slender, and graceful, wearing armor made from living crystal that shifted colors with her mood. A crown of black metal rested on her head, ancient beyond counting. But Jinho noticed something that others missed. Her shoulders carried invisible weight. Her eyes held exhaustion that makeup could not hide. She smiled at the assembled candidates, but the smile never reached her gaze. She looked like a prisoner walking to her execution, not a queen choosing her future. The candidates stepped forward one by one, announcing their names and accomplishments. The Velmer Prince demonstrated his psychic abilities, lifting objects with his mind. The Gathari warlord crushed a metal being with his bare hands. The Veshan ambassador recited his family's 3,000-year history of conquest. Each one boasted louder than the last. Each one described what they would bring to the Zirathi Empire: military strength, political alliances, genetic superiority. They spoke of the queen as if she were a prize to be won, a trophy to display. None of them asked what she wanted. Jinho felt his stomach turn with disgust. He had seen enough. He climbed down from his maintenance perch and walked toward the service corridors, eager to escape the spectacle. He turned a corner and stopped. Queen Selara stood alone in a small observation room, staring out at the stars. Her guards were nowhere in sight. Her crystal armor had shifted to deep blue, almost black, and her hands gripped the window frame as if she might shatter it. Jinho should have left. He should have bowed and retreated and pretended he saw nothing. But something in her posture reminded him of his mother in her final days, tired, lonely, and carrying burdens too heavy for one person. "Are you all right?" he asked. The queen spun around, her eyes blazing with power. For a moment, Jinho thought she might kill him where he stood. "Who dares address me without permission?" she demanded. "I apologize," Jinho said, not moving. "I am just a maintenance worker. I did not mean to intrude, but you looked sad, and I wanted to ask if you needed help." Selara stared at him as if he had spoken in a language she did not understand. "Help," she repeated slowly. "You offer help to the queen of the Zirathi Empire?" "I offer help to someone who looks like they need it," Jinho replied simply. "The crown does not change that." Silence stretched between them, heavy and strange. Selara studied his face, searching for deception, for hidden motives, for the manipulation she had learned to expect from everyone around her. She found none. "You should go, little human," she said finally, her voice softer than before. "This place is not for you." Jinho nodded and turned to leave. At the doorway, he paused. "For what it is worth," he said without looking back, "I hope you find what you are searching for. Not what your empire needs. What you need." He walked away into the shadows of the maintenance corridors. Queen Selara remained at the window for a long time, her armor slowly shifting from dark blue to something lighter, something uncertain. In 10,000 years, no one had ever asked what she needed. The next morning, the queen announced the first trial combat to prove worth. And buried deep in the station's personnel files, she found a name. Park Jinho, Environmental Systems Engineer, Human. The alien queen searched for a worthy mate for her bloodline. Only one human stepped forward. The Zirathi flagship Eternal Throne was the largest vessel Jinho had ever seen. It stretched for kilometers, a floating palace of crystal and dark metal that made the Galactic Council station look like a children's toy. The ship had carried Zirathi emperors and queens for 8,000 years, and its hull bore the scars of 100 wars. Jinho stood in the cargo bay with the other support staff, watching the alien candidates prepare for the combat trials. He should have been checking the atmospheric systems, but he could not look away from the arena being constructed in the ship's central chamber. The trial arena was a masterpiece of brutality. Floating platforms surrounded a central fighting ring, and energy shields protected the spectators from stray attacks. The walls displayed the names of every warrior who had ever fought for Zirathiana. None of them had been human. "Attention all personnel," the announcement system declared. "Combat trials begin in 1 hour. All non-essential workers must clear the arena level." Jinho turned to leave, but his Zirathi guard blocked his path. "Park Jinho?" the guard asked. "Yes," Jinho replied, confused. "Is there a problem with my work authorization?" "The Queen requests your presence in the observation gallery," the guard said without emotion. "You will come with me." Jinho had no choice but to follow. The guard led him through corridors of polished crystal, past ancient statues of Zirathi warriors, until they reached a private viewing chamber high above the arena. Queen Selara sat on a throne of living crystal, surrounded by her advisors and attendants. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like captured starlight, and her expression revealed nothing. Jinho bowed awkwardly, unsure of the proper protocol. "You may rise, little human," Selara said. "I wished you to observe today's trials." Consider it an education." "I am grateful," Jinho managed to say, though he had no idea why the Queen would care about educating a maintenance worker. The trials began. Warlord Draxon of the Kethari entered first, his forearms raised in triumph before he had even fought. The crowd roared with approval as he faced his opponent, a Theshan warrior, nearly as large as himself. The fight was brutal and short. Draxon moved with terrifying speed, his fists striking like hammers. Within minutes, the Theshan lay broken on the arena floor, and Draxon stood over him with a foot on his chest. "Yield or die!" Draxon bellowed. The Theshan yielded, and medical teams rushed to carry him away. Jinho felt sick. He glanced at Queen Selara and saw her watching with cold, distant eyes. She did not cheer. She did not smile. She simply observed, as if this violence meant nothing to her. The next candidate was Prince Velith of the Velmer, a slender being with pale purple skin and enormous black eyes. The Velmer were known for their psychic abilities, and Velith proved why. He never touched his opponent. Instead, he reached into his enemy's mind and twisted. The Crescent warrior screamed and collapsed, clutching his head in agony. "Submission," Velith announced calmly, as if he had done nothing more than wave his hand. Fight after fight, the candidates demonstrated their power. They crushed, burned, dominated, and destroyed. Each one was stronger than the last. Each one was more brutal. And Queen Selara watched it all with the same empty expression. During a break between matches, Jinho found himself standing near the observation window. He had been forgotten by the guards in attendance, invisible among the powerful figures who surrounded the Queen. "They are impressive, are they not?" a voice asked beside him. Jinho turned and found Selara standing there, having somehow moved without anyone noticing. Her guards remained at their posts across the room, but she had slipped away like a ghost. "They are terrifying," Jinho admitted honestly. "That is not the same thing," Selara replied. "You humans have such interesting perspectives. Tell me, little engineer, what do you see when you watch these trials?" Jinho hesitated. Honesty with a queen could be dangerous, but something told him she wanted the truth. "I see warriors trying to impress you," he said carefully. "But I do not see anyone trying to understand you. They fight for your crown, not for you." Selara's eyes widened slightly, the first real emotion Jinho had seen from her. "And what would you do differently?" she asked. "I would ask what you need," Jinho said simply. "I would listen before I acted. I would treat you as a person, not as a prize." The Queen stared at him for a long moment. Her crystal armor shifted colors, cycling through shades Jinho could not name. "You are very strange, Park Jinho," she said finally. "Go now. Watch the rest of the trials. Think about what you have seen." She returned to her throne before Jinho could respond. The trials continued for 3 more hours. By the end, only 6 candidates remained. Warlord Draxon stood victorious above all others, his body covered in the blood of his enemies. But when Queen Selara rose to announce the next phase of the competition, her words shocked everyone. "Combat proves strength of body," she declared. "But my bloodline requires more than muscle. Tomorrow, we begin the trials of wisdom and character. Each remaining candidate will be tested." The crowd murmured in confusion. The Zirathi valued power above all else. Why would the Queen care about wisdom? Then she continued, and the murmurs became shouts. "Additionally, I am adding one more name to the candidate list," Selara announced. "Park Jinho of Earth will join the trials." Jinho's heart stopped. Across the arena, Warlord Draxon's eyes found him small, weak human. The hatred in that gaze promised death. "This is an insult," Draxon roared. "A human? A maintenance worker? You mock us, my queen." "I mock no one," Salara replied coldly. I seek the worthiest mate for my bloodline. This human has shown qualities that interest me. He will compete, or you will answer to me personally. Silence fell over the arena. Jinho stood frozen, his mind racing. He had never asked for this. He did not want to compete against warriors and princes. He was nobody, just an engineer who fixed air filters. But when he looked up at Queen Salara, he saw something in her eyes. A question, a challenge, a hope. And somehow, against all reason, he found himself nodding. He would compete. Whatever came next, he would face it standing. The alien queen searched for a worthy mate for her bloodline. Only one human stepped forward. The Zirithi homeworld took Jinho's breath away. Zirith was a planet of crystal mountains and silver forests, where the sky burned orange and purple at sunset. The capital city stretched across 3 continents, ancient spires rising like fingers toward the heavens. Everything was beautiful, ancient, and completely alien. Jinho felt smaller than ever. The remaining candidates gathered in the palace throne room, where Queen Salara explained the second trial. Each competitor would be assigned a struggling Zirathi colony and given full authority to solve its problems. They would have 1 week. Warlord Draxon received a colony threatened by pirates. He grinned with satisfaction. This was a problem he understood. Prince Velith was assigned a colony with political unrest. The other candidates received similar challenges suited to their strengths. Then the queen turned to Jinho. You will travel to the colony of Vareth Minor, she announced. Their agricultural systems have failed. The soil is poisoned, and the people are starving. You have 1 week. The other candidates laughed. A dying farming colony? This was not a challenge, it was an execution. Jinho simply nodded and accepted his assignment. The transport ship delivered him to Vareth Minor the next morning, and he understood immediately why the others had laughed. The colony was dying. Fields that should have been green with crops were brown and barren. The processing plants stood silent, their machines rusted and broken. Zirithi colonists walked through empty streets with hollow eyes, their silver skin dull from malnutrition. The colony administrator met Jinho at the landing pad, her expression mixing despair with confusion. You are the queen's candidate? She asked. You are human. I am, Jinho confirmed. My name is Park Jinho. I am here to help. Help? The administrator's laugh was bitter. Our soil is poisoned by industrial runoff from the old mines. Nothing grows. We have requested assistance from the Empire for 3 years, but no one comes. What can one human do? I do not know yet, Jinho admitted. But I would like to see the farms and understand the problem. Will you show me? The administrator stared at him. She had expected commands, orders, demands for reports and data. She had not expected questions. Follow me, she said finally. Jinho spent the first 2 days learning. He walked through the dead fields and tested the soil. He examined the broken irrigation systems and the contaminated water sources. He spoke with farmers, engineers, merchants, and children. He asked questions constantly, writing notes in a small book he carried. On the 3rd day, he gathered the colony's remaining engineers in an empty warehouse. The poison in your soil comes from heavy metals, he explained, drawing diagrams on a dusty wall. On Earth, we face similar problems. The solution is bioremediation, using certain plants and fungi to absorb the toxins. We have no such plants, one engineer protested. But you have something similar, Jinho replied. I found a fungus growing near the old mine entrance. It survives in the poisoned ground. If we cultivate it and spread it through the fields, it may clean the soil. The engineers looked doubtful, but they had no better options. Jinho worked beside them, not above them. He dug in the contaminated dirt with his bare hands. He carried equipment when machines failed. He ate the same ration food as the colonists and slept in the same coal shelters. The Zirathi watched him with growing wonder. No official had ever worked alongside them. No leader had ever shared their suffering. This strange human treated them as equals, not as subjects. On the 5th day, something remarkable happened. The first green shoots appeared in a test field where they had applied the fungus treatment. Small, fragile, but undeniably alive. The colonists gathered around the tiny plants, tears streaming down their silver faces. Children laughed for the first time in months. The administrator fell to her knees, overwhelmed. It will take time, Jinho warned them gently. Many months before the fields are fully restored. But the process works. You can save your colony. Word spread quickly, and soon the entire settlement gathered in the central square. They wanted to see the human who had given them hope. Jinho stood before them, uncomfortable with the attention. I did not save your colony, he told them honestly. Your engineers did the work. Your farmers will tend the fields. I only shared knowledge that my ancestors learned through their own suffering. We are not so different, your people and mine. An old Zirathi woman stepped forward from the crowd. She moved slowly, supported by younger relatives, but her eyes were sharp. You learned our names, she said. You ate with us. You asked about our families, our histories, our hopes. Why? Jinho considered the question carefully. Because you are people, he answered. Not problems to solve. Not subjects to command. People. And people deserve respect. The old woman smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her weathered face. The queen chose wisely, she said. Perhaps more wisely than she knows. Jinho did not understand what she meant, but he accepted her blessing graciously. That night, as Jinho taught Zirathi children how to plant seeds with their own hands, a shadow watched from the hills above the colony. Queen Selara had traveled in secret, disguising herself as a common traveler. She wanted to see what her candidates would do when they believed no one was watching. Draxon had crushed the pirates with brutal efficiency, leaving destruction in his wake. Velith had manipulated the political factions with psychic pressure, creating false peace through fear. But this human? He knelt in the dirt, laughing with children, teaching them to nurture life instead of destroy it. His clothes were stained, his hands were rough, and his face showed exhaustion. But his eyes shone with genuine joy. Selara felt something shift in her chest, an emotion she had not experienced in centuries. It frightened her, but she did not look away. For the first time in 10,000 years, the queen of the Zirathi Empire smiled without pretense. And for the first time, she allowed herself to hope. The alien queen searched for a worthy mate for her bloodline. Only one human stepped forward. 1 week had passed since the duel. Jinho lay in the royal medical chamber, his body wrapped in regenerative bandages that glowed with soft blue light. Zirathi medicine was advanced beyond anything on Earth, but even their technology needed time to repair broken bones and torn muscles. He drifted between sleep and waking, his dreams filled with strange images, crystal palaces, burning eyes, and a voice asking him questions he could not answer. When he finally woke fully, Queen Selara was sitting beside his bed. You look terrible, she said. Thank you, Jinho replied with a weak smile. I feel worse. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Something had shifted between them. The distance of royalty and commoner had crumbled during the duel. Now they were just two people, uncertain of what came next. The other candidates have been dismissed, Selara told him. Draxon has returned to his homeworld in shame. Velith withdrew after watching the duel. They said your victory was humiliating enough. I did not win, Jinho corrected. I just refused to lose. That is the same thing, in the end. Silence filled the room again. Jinho gathered his courage for the question he needed to ask. "What happens now?" he said. Solara stood and walked to the window, her back to him. The orange light of the Zirithi sun painted her silver skin in shades of fire. "My court is divided," she admitted. "Many oppose the idea of a human consort. They say you are too weak, too short-lived, too foreign. They warn that our children would be impure." "And what do you say?" Solara turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "I say that I am tired of being told what to think. I have ruled this empire for 3,000 years. I have made decisions that shaped the galaxy. But I have never made a decision for myself." She walked back to his bedside and looked down at him with those ancient, burning eyes. "I am offering you the position of royal consort," she said formally. "You would join the eternal bloodline. Your children would be heirs to the Zirithi Empire. You would live in the palace, surrounded by luxury beyond imagination." Jinho waited. He could hear the unspoken words hovering in the air. "But," he prompted. Solara smiled, a small, genuine expression that transformed her face. "But I am doing something that no Zirithi ruler has ever done," she continued. "I am giving you a choice. You may accept, and we will build something new together. Or you may refuse, and you will return to Earth with honor and rewards beyond measure." She paused, and her voice softened. "I will not command you, Park Jinho. I will not trap you as I have been trapped. The choice is yours." Jinho lay still, processing her words. Everything he had known, his home, his work, his simple life, hung in the balance. He could return to Earth and be a hero, famous throughout human space. He could live comfortably, marry someone of his own species, grow old surrounded by familiar things. Or he could stay. "I need to think," he said honestly. "May I walk in the gardens?" Solara nodded and helped him rise. His legs were weak but functional, and they walked together through the crystal corridors of the palace. The royal gardens of Zirith were unlike anything on Earth. Trees of silver and gold grew beside pools of liquid light. Flowers sang with soft voices when the wind touched their petals. Strange creatures flew through branches that reached toward the alien sky. Jinho walked slowly, absorbing the beauty around him. Solara walked beside him in silence, giving him space to think. They stopped beside a fountain that somehow defied gravity, water flowing upward into a spiral that dissolved into mist. "My parents died when I was young," Jinho said suddenly. "A factory accident on Earth. I was raised by my grandmother in a small apartment in Bizin. She worked 3 jobs to keep me fed. She never complained, never gave up, never asked for anything for herself." Solara listened without interrupting. "She used to say that life is not about what happens to you," Jinho continued. "It is about who you become. She said the measure of a person is not their power or their wealth. It is how they treat others when no one is watching." He turned to face the queen. "I watched you during this competition," he said. "I saw how you carry the weight of your empire, how you hide your loneliness behind a mask of strength, how everyone around you wants something from you." Solara's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I cannot promise to be strong," Jinho said. "I cannot promise to live as long as you or fight like your warriors. I am just a human, fragile, temporary, and very small in the face of your ancient empire." He reached out and took her hand, a gesture that would have meant death if he had tried it a week ago. "But I can promise to stand beside you," he continued, "to remind you that you are more than a crown, to ask what you want instead of demanding what I need. To teach our children the power means nothing without kindness." Solara's mask crumbled completely. Tears flowed down her silver cheeks, not tears of sadness, but of something she had forgotten she could feel. "Is that a yes?" she whispered. "That is a yes," Jinho confirmed. She pulled him into an embrace, careful of his healing injuries. For a long moment, they stood together beside the impossible fountain, the ancient queen and the simple human who had reminded her how to feel. 3 months later, the galaxy watched in amazement as the Royal Union was broadcast across every network. Park Jin-ho, once a maintenance worker from Earth, stood beside Queen Saylara in the Great Hall of the Eternal Throne. The ceremony combined Zurathi tradition with human customs, a symbol of the new path they would walk together. Across the stars, humans celebrated with pride. Aliens watched with confusion and wonder. Political analysts debated the implications for a century, but none of them understood what had really happened. A lonely queen had searched for strength and found something better: connection. A simple man had been asked to prove his worth and had proven that worth had nothing to do with power. And somewhere in the palace gardens, where flowers sang and water flowed upward toward the sky, a new story was beginning. The story of humanity in the stars, told not through conquest, but through compassion. Not through strength, but through heart. They had expected a warrior, but they received something far more threatening. A man who reminded an immortal queen how to feel mortal. And the galaxy would never be the same. The alien queen searched for a worthy mate for her bloodline. Only one human stepped forward. The Great Hall of the Eternal Throne had never been so crowded. Thousands of Zurathi nobles, warriors, and citizens packed every level of the massive chamber. Holographic screens broadcast the event to billions across the empire. Everyone wanted to witness what would happen next. Warlord Draxon stood in the center of the hall, his forearms crossed over his massive chest. His voice echoed like thunder. "I invoke the right of blood challenge." He roared. "This human insults our traditions. He's unworthy to compete for the Queen's hand. I demand satisfaction." The crowd erupted in noise, some cheering, some protesting, most simply shocked. Jin-ho stood alone on the opposite side of the hall, feeling very small and very mortal. The right of blood challenge was ancient Zurathi law, a fight to the death that could not be refused. If he declined, he would forfeit the competition and be forever marked as a coward. Queen Saylara rose from her throne, her face carefully neutral. "The challenge is valid," she announced, though something in her voice suggested reluctance. "By ancient law, Park Jin-ho must answer. What say you, human?" Every eye turned to Jin-ho. His heart pounded against his ribs. His hands trembled. Draxon was 8 feet of muscle and rage, a warrior who had killed hundreds in combat. Jin-ho was an engineer who fixed air filters. But he had made a choice when he accepted this competition. He would see it through. "I accept the challenge," Jin-ho said, his voice steady despite his fear. The crowd fell silent. Even Draxon seemed surprised. He had expected the human to run. "Prepare yourself, little creature," Draxon growled. "Tomorrow you die." That night, Jin-ho sat alone in his quarters, staring at the stars through the window. He had no weapons training, no combat experience. He was going to die, and he knew it. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. He opened the door to find Queen Saylara standing in the corridor, without guards or attendants. She wore simple robes instead of armor, and her expression held something he had never seen before: concern. "May I enter?" she asked quietly. Jin-ho stepped aside, too stunned to speak. Saylara walked to the window and stood where he had been standing. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I did not want this," she finally said. "The right of blood challenge is barbaric, a relic of our violent past. But I cannot interfere without destroying my authority." "I understand," Jin-ho replied. "Do you?" Saylara turned to face him. "You will die tomorrow." Draxon has never lost. He has killed Keth-Eri champions, Deshan warlords, creatures that would give nightmares to your nightmares. Probably, Jinho agreed calmly. Solara stared at him with frustration. I can arrange your escape, she said urgently. A shuttle to the edge of the system, transport back to Earth. You would be safe. You would live. And you would be forced to choose between monsters, Jinho said quietly. Draxon, Velith, the others, they see you as a prize. A path to power. None of them care about you. That is not your concern. It is, Jinho insisted. Maybe I cannot win tomorrow. Maybe Draxon will crush me like he has crushed everyone else. But at least I can show you that there is another way. Solara's expression cracked, revealing something vulnerable beneath the royal mask. Why? She whispered. Why do you care? You barely know me. I'm not even your species. Jinho considered the question seriously. Because everyone deserves a choice, he said. You did not choose to be queen. You did not choose this competition. Your whole life, people have decided things for you. Told you what to do, who to be, what to want. He stepped closer, meeting her burning eyes without fear. I am not fighting for your crown, he continued. I am fighting because you deserve someone who asks what you want, who sees you as more than a bloodline, even if that person is not me. Tears formed in Solara's ancient eyes, the first tears she had shed in 1,000 years. You are a fool, Park Jinho, she said softly. Probably, he agreed with a small smile. She left without another word, but something had changed between them. The duel began at noon the next day. Jinho entered the arena wearing simple clothes and carrying no weapons. The crowd laughed. Draxon roared with amusement. You do not even bring a blade? The warlord mocked. This will be quicker than I thought. The fight began. Draxon charged like an avalanche, his 4 fists swinging. Jinho dodged the first blow, then the second, but the third caught his shoulder and sent him flying. He crashed against the arena wall, gasping in pain. Blood flowed from a cut on his forehead. His arm hung limp at his side, but he stood up. Draxon attacked again, and again Jinho fell. Bones cracked. Blood splattered. The crowd watched in horrified silence. But every time he fell, Jinho stood up. Stay down. Draxon screamed, confusion mixing with his rage. Why do you keep rising? Because humans do not quit, Jinho gasped through broken lips. We fall down 7 times. We stand up 8. The fight continued for an hour. Draxon threw everything he had at the fragile human. But humans had evolved on a death world, shaped by gravity and predators and endless struggle. Their bodies could endure punishment that would kill other species. Jinho could not hurt Draxon, but Draxon could not make him stay down. Slowly, impossibly, the warlord began to tire. His blows grew slower. His breathing became ragged. 4 arms meant 4 times the oxygen needed. And still Jinho stood. Finally, with a groan of exhaustion, Draxon collapsed. His massive body hit the arena floor, too tired to continue. Jinho stood over him, barely conscious, swaying on broken legs. Yield, he whispered. Kill me, Draxon growled. Finish it. That is our way. Jinho shook his head. No, he said simply. I will not become a monster to defeat one. You live. Maybe someday you will understand why. He turned his back on his fallen enemy and limped toward the exit. The Great Hall erupted in chaos shock, outrage, amazement, and something that sounded almost like applause. On her throne, Queen Solara rose slowly, her eyes fixed on the broken, bleeding human who would show mercy to his enemy. For the first time in 10,000 years, a Zirathi queen descended from her throne to stand with a commoner.